Hiya, it's Talking Reds. I'm Josh Sexton. I'm joined by my mate Fuad Hasan on a great day in Liverpool, a great and tired Wednesday. But the Reds are back this weekend, so all is well. Fuad, we are going to get stuck into some of the greyer topics first, but don't worry, everyone, bear with us. We'll bring it round to some positives at the end. The first sort of injury concern or injury issue to react to is not actually an international one. I know the title will say this is about an international injury update, but the first one is Curtis Jones. It seems this eye injury is going to keep him out for a few more weeks, as the club said yesterday, and it feels like a massive blow, doesn't it, to be honest? His season got off to the sort of worst possible start in terms of getting the concussion during the last friendly, and he doesn't really pick up much momentum off the back of that. He gets a little run of games where he plays really well, scores a couple of goals and things like that, but then another injury issue is keeping him out, and now it is a blow, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a blow. It's a mad injury as well. I don't know, like, what's happened? Is
Someone's like scratched his eye or something, yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
What are they doing in training, honestly? There was a picture of like someone else, I think it was Simicast had a black eye as well, like they're all just leathering each other.
Yeah. Let's tone it down, yeah, good. We're all mates.
Calm the intensity of it.
Yeah, it is a blow though, because you do look at the midfield options from that point of view, and that there really aren't many there at the moment, are there? So from that point of view, it is a big blow, and also for him, this is the season where you'd look at him to kick on a bit. Last season he made great progress, and it was a little bit forced because of the injuries and that we had. But this season, he really, a place was nailed down for him. We didn't sign another midfielder based on his kind of pathway and his development this season. So for him personally, yeah, it is a bit of a shame because, it's all well and good getting that run of games, but then to be out for a long period of time, it just kicks you back, doesn't it? You kind of have to rebuild. There's loads of games coming up as well, which means it's a little bit difficult maybe to throw him in there because you want players that have the rhythm to kind of get through those for you. So yeah, let's just hope he can get back and he can get back and get into the rhythm he was in just before his injury. Yeah,
and it seems like Navigator's been back but hasn't been in training either, which is another blow. As you mentioned at the start there, it's the midfield options thing, isn't it? It feels like, with injury issues at Liverpool, when it rains it pours, and it also seems to be sort of concentrated in one position. I remember last season when Jurgen Klopp was speaking in one of his press conferences, and he said, if you told me there was going to be an injury, I'd guess it was in defence and I'd be right. and that's the way it feels, but with the midfield this season, isn't it, really?
It does. It's mad as well, though. Obviously there's injury-prone players in there, but we just had some freak ones, like this Curtis thing is freak. The Harvey Elliott one's, just horrible as well. So you can't really plan for that, can you? You're going to get these injuries, but for them all to come at the same position is an issue because, we talk about this midfield being very functional, and yes, there's a little bit of an evolution this season with the type of players that have been playing in there. But at the end of the day, there needs to be the right blend. You can have the options available, but you do need that right mix of three. And I think we saw that, the Brighton game, for example, in the second half, where he was, just sort of forced to put out what he had. And they're all great players individually and have their roles in certain systems. But for that game, the three of them together just didn't quite have the right mix of qualities, if you like. And I think that's an issue that he's going to have to manage. Maybe that means a little bit of a change of shape in certain matches. I'm not too sure, but I do worry that we don't have all the players that we would usually have that can form these different types of trios that we like to go for in midfield.
I suppose one of the positives, as you mentioned, Harvey Elliott there, is sort of seeing him back in training, seeing him putting his montages up on Instagram of him running and stuff like that. It's good to see, isn't it? And it sort of shows that his return's only around the corner, and God knows we need it in terms of bodies at the moment.
Yeah. It's really great, isn't it, to see him get to recover so quickly. He was clearly, he didn't let the injury knock him down too much. You could tell.
Seems like he's got a great mentality anyway.
He does, doesn't he? He really seems to be so mature beyond his years, really, in terms of dealing with these sort of setbacks. Because you can imagine for a lot of younger players who do have these injuries, it is tough. It is tough psychologically and mentally, especially when you've tasted, first team football and you've had a big kind of rise. For him to get back, to what looks like running and a bit of light training. Is brilliant, and hopefully, I'm sure they're going to take their time with him because you have to be careful, don't you, at that age as well. His body's still developing and all of those things. So you wouldn't want him to be rushed back too quickly. And I'm sure the manager's thinking exactly the same. Look, you can't rely on an 18-year-old to come in and rush him back to fitness just to fix your injury issues. I think there has to be a bit of management with him. But yeah, it'd be great to see him back because he does bring that energy, doesn't he? He is that kind of. That breath of fresh air almost.
Different option, isn't he?
He's a different option, exactly. He's a really exciting player to watch as well. When you see him in the lineup, everyone does get up for it and get really excited. So yeah, hopefully this is a good sign that we see him, within the next few months.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, there are a few more sort of injury concerns from the international break, from last night's internationals anyway. Andy Robertson went off injured for Scotland, which feels like a massive blow. And Divock Origi went off injured for Belgium as well. His first time in the Belgian squad in like 18 months, I think it is. Andy he goes back and gets injured for them. We'll speak about Andy Robertson first.
Obviously,
it is a huge blow. You never want to lose a player, and obviously Andy Robertson's not a player who's sort of prone to injuries either. So it's something bad if he is going off injured. But on the flip side of that, I suppose it's a huge opportunity for Kostas Tsimikas now, and he's proven in the opportunities that he's had that he can step up as well.
100%. And we've kind of had to go, if we go back to when Robertson broke into the team, it was the same sort of situation. Moreno gets that injury, and that's his opportunity. And as horrible it is for one player, it does provide an opportunity for another. And yeah, like you said, Tsimikas has shown that he can come into the side and more than kind of cover that gap left by Robertson. He offers something a little bit different as well, I think, which we can utilise to our strengths. But then maybe there does need to be a bit of adaptation with the players around him just at the beginning. Because he won't be used to playing a run of games, and especially in an intense period now. The games are going to be coming quite thick and fast. So you have a lot of confidence in him, don't you? You have a lot more confidence in him than you would have if the same thing happened 12 months ago.
100%. Yeah, Divock Origi off injured for Belgium as well. I think I'm probably less worried about that one than the Robertson one. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily worried about the idea of Tsimikas starting. It's more just the injury to Robertson. As I say before, he's not the sort of player who takes little knocks and things like that. Divock Origi, I think as long as he can get fit for January, to be honest, when the African Cup of Nations come around, then I'll be fine. But I suppose that one of the worries is that Firmino is obviously out at the moment. It means that Minamino is probably going to be the sort of first striking option off the bench if the injury to Origi is sort of more serious.
I want him fit for the derby, Josh. I want him ready for the derby. It would be an issue if this injury came a bit later. You do wonder, don't you, at this time of the season as well, if with some of these injuries, they are just a little bit more proportionate than they would be, because they do know, we're about to go into the games where, it's every 3 days, every 4 days, and important league games. So you do wonder at this stage if they do just like to take that extra bit of precaution, because once you get an injury or a relapse within that period, you're missing 4 or 5 games, aren't you, if it's just a couple of weeks. So I think it is important that they do keep it careful with him because of the Africa Cup of Nations. And yeah, it's a shame. You'd have thought you'd hope that he'd gone to Belgium and maybe get a bit of playing time. It's always nice, isn't it, for these guys to go away as well, and then they can come back a little bit rejuvenated. So hopefully it's not a serious one.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, there's a few more of the lads who went off on internationals and came off injured during the week who've been training for Liverpool, which is, I suppose, good news.
That's good.
Mane appearing in full training is obviously really good news, and then Henderson as well, who went off for England, has trained individually. I don't really know what that means in terms of his availability for Arsenal, but hopefully it's a good sign in terms of him not being out long term.
Yeah, he's the real big one, isn't it? Out of all of these that you just really do need on the pitch for these next few games, and if we're talking about Saturday especially, I think he's the one that you do need. I don't know what does training individually really mean. You'd hope it's just one of those sessions when they come back and they do that before they get it back in with the group. But yeah, fingers crossed, because he really is the one that we do need to keep fit in this period, considering the options that we don't have in midfield.
I remember one of the lads in the group chat posting about the Mane injury, because I think that was like the first of the week of basically Liverpool's lads going off injured in internationals, and honestly, like from then it's just been like a downward spiral of like, oh, this lad's gone off now, oh, this lad's gone off now, like more of those like upside down smiley faces, like the sarcastic ones. I think it would be dead easy, wouldn't it, to sort of look at this period of internationals in particular and look, England beat San Marino 10-0 in a completely pointless game the other night. So in that sense, I can see bits of the argument, but I want to talk about Virgil Van Dijk's post he made after Holland made automatic qualification for the World Cup last night, because it sort of showed, didn't it, how much it does mean to them. I mean, he literally put the caption as "this means so much," and I think it's dead easy for us to sort of sit back and go, "Oh, we don't want any of our players to go in internationals, and we don't want them to get those injuries and things like that." But for Virgil Van Dijk and Holland, their captain in Holland, to a World Cup is an absolutely massive thing.
It is. It's huge, and the thing that I think we sometimes sort of forget with these players, because of how good they are so important to their national teams, not just in terms of their actual ability, but in terms of leadership. There's 2-3 international captains in this Liverpool squad. Andy Robertson, every time he goes on Scotland duty, he has that responsibility, he feels that responsibility. Same with Virgil van Dijk. Holland have had that dip over the last few years. He's the one that's the kind of face of the team now in terms of leadership and everything. So he does feel that responsibility, embraces it. You look at Naby Keita as well. He might not be captain for Guinea, but he is the star player. Yeah. Exactly. Same with Sadio Mane. So all these players have a lot of pressure from that side of things, and we don't necessarily see it because we're not tuning into Guinea news or Dutch news or anything. Oh, sorry, Josh. Yeah. Put your words in your mouth. But these guys have a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure from their home countries, and it is a huge deal. You see when these teams qualify. I always go back to the video when Salah scores the penalty for Egypt to qualify. for was it the World Cup, I think?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable, wasn't it? That you kind of never really see scenes like that. So it is huge for them, and it's good for us as well, because they come back on a bit of a bounce. They come back with that kind of good feeling, and yes, they might be a bit tired physically, but they've got that kind of renewed spirit about them.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, speaking of Virgil van Dyke, we told a bit of his career story up to Liverpool in our latest player profiles. It's a series of audio documentaries we do, which trace back the careers of Liverpool's current squad members, and Virgil van Dyke is the latest one, and here is a little clip from that.
The way he spread passes about Celtic Park, which is a big park, was incredible. With hardly any backlift, 60-yard passes right onto the toe. I think if you're looking at a culture and the way that he changed the dynamic of the Celtic team, some of the players had to up their level a bit. They had to know where to be, because he could find them with the passing. His range of passing was absolutely astonishing. And I think the impact that he made is interesting. He makes my greatest ever 11. I've watched Celtic for 32 years. But even more interesting than that, I was speaking to Hugh MacDonald, who is a renowned journalist in Scotland, who next year, if he makes it, he reminds me, if he makes it to next year, he's watched Celtic in 8 different decades, and he makes it into his top 11 of all time. He plays at centre-half alongside Billy McNeil. So that shows you the stature and the legacy he's left at Celtic Park.
Yeah, as I mentioned, that is our Virgil van Dyke Player Profiles audio documentary. You can get that as a subscriber to our podcast if you go to theanfieldwrap.com/subscribe. That's £7 a month for the audio, £7 a month for the video. You can even click the join button in the YouTube description if you want to watch all of that, or it's £10 for the whole lot. And why would you not want the whole lot more of me and Fuad? That's all good stuff, isn't it? Fuad, it has been a little bit doom and gloom, a lot of injury chat so far. I just want to sort of bring it round to a bit more positive chat. I'll read through a few of the comments as well. Account 2. Which is a great name, seems like a fairly standard YouTube name, says we need a big atmosphere this weekend versus Arsenal. The last good atmosphere was AC Milan, it will spur the boys over the line. I'm not sure if I agree the last good atmosphere was AC Milan. I think the atmosphere at Atletico was good, but I take the point though that we do need a big atmosphere against Arsenal, and I think we've come off the back of the West Ham defeat probably feeling a little bit doom and gloom, and I don't think any of the international injury concerns have helped as such, but we are still in a good place, aren't we? And we know what this squad can do, we know what this 11 can do.
100%, and I think he's right, Mr. Account,
Mr.
2, that we do need this big atmosphere, I think, because yes, Arsenal are on the up, and they've had their struggles earlier in the season, but this is a big game, regardless of how you look at it. The Atletico game, there wasn't too much riding on it, but we managed to kind of come together because of who we were playing, because of the whole kind of narrative around the game and everything. So I am looking forward to getting back there on Saturday. It's kind of, in a way, this international break came at a good time, didn't it? Just it's given everyone a bit of a step back from the football, from the intensity of it all. We've been in this kind of thing where every point you drop feels like the end of the world. And we kind of maybe forget when we look outside our bubble that, other teams have been dropping points. City have been dropping points. Chelsea have been as well. So it is important that we get that kind of perspective on it all. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think, Anfield will be back to its best. I thought I was a little bit disappointed at the Brighton game, how we kind of almost lost belief when it went to 2-2 and we didn't quite have that same, resurgent sound when it did go to that score. But I think Saturday everyone's going to get in there fresh. Everyone's going to be kind of raring to go again, because it's been a few weeks now, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're spreading the good vibes here, but Stuart Hamilton seems intent on spreading bad vibes instead. He says, any thoughts on playing 3 centre backs if the midfield injuries continue? I think we could be more solid defensively and still score goals. I don't think I could disagree more, to be honest. The idea of Nat Phillips in midfield scares every single fibre of my being to death. I don't want Nat Phillips in midfield, Fuad.
No, oh God, I'm trying to picture it. I can't even really picture how that would go. Let's stick to 4-3-3.
T Gis says, great to have you both on. Thanks, T. Great to have you watching as well. Barry Higgins said, morning Reds, hope everyone as well. Morning Barry, hope you are well as well. Matty Bostick says, I'm excited to see the Greek Scouser really come into his own. I loved, by the way, the Costas post of him and Trent just before the internationals. I think it was on his Instagram story, put them both like 2 Scousers. It's like me and you.
I think we need to get him in, Josh, so I'm being honest. Get a trio going. Yeah, no, he is brilliant, isn't he? He's a bit mad, and I think everyone likes his madness in the squad. And I'm really into this Mo Salah friendship. I wonder how that came about. They just don't seem like the same.
Mo needed a new mad mate after David Lovren left, didn't he? So he's managed to fill that role. There's a bit of shock of Divock for Belgium chat here as well. I think Divock deserved it. I think he's been good recently. Scored a couple of goals. Yes. He looks like he's sort of getting back to his best finishing form, at least, if not overall form, whatever that is for Divock.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's so difficult for a player to be to have to come on in moments and sort of have all that pressure of, you know, you've got no rhythm, you're coming into a game situation where you need to do something needs to come from you. And a couple of times in the last few weeks he's done it, hasn't he? You know, West Ham, he comes on. West Ham. He was, wasn't he? He was so good when he came on.
Making everything happen.
Yeah, I'm sure Martinez saw that and was like, you know, we're taking him, because that performance in itself was probably good enough for him to get a shot in. And you know, we talk about we don't like our players going off. He's one where you kind of, I know he's got injured now, but you would have welcomed that, wouldn't you? Because he can go off, get a bit of rhythm, play some minutes in the international games. And he can come back already having a bit of that in the bank for us to then hopefully use.
I think I've misrepresented Stuart there. He's followed up his comment saying I meant 3 at the back, not 3 centre-backs in midfield. Thank God there's no Nat Phillips in midfield. We don't need to press the panic button yet. Liverpool don't need to press the panic button either. It's still a good time to be a Liverpool fan. There's still going to be loads of reaction and build-up from all of us here at the Anfield Wrap, building up to Arsenal, building up to Porto, all the great things that are to come. Dead rubber Champions League group stage games. Who would have thought that? Liverpool at top of their Champions League group. They're qualified as top of their Champions League group. It is a great time to be a Red. Get on the Anfield Wrap. theanfieldwrap.com/subscribe. Buy all the merch, do everything, read the writing, watch the videos, up the Reds.